Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Sandy.
And this is the Italian American Stories podcast. We hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Mom and I did a lot of cooking. We did pre-cooking this year though, which I think made a big difference.
It made it a little easier. Actually, a lot easier.
It's a lot when you have all the people at the house coming over, and Mom and I, it's pretty much just Mom and I that do the cooking. And so, with everybody in and out of the kitchen, and we were like, okay, we're going to pre-cook this year. So we pre-cooked Wednesday and then just put the food in crock pots and stuff. I mean, we didn't pre-cook all of it, but just some of the little stuff. And it was fun though. We also want to talk really quickly before we dive into today's story. We just rebranded our whole website. We've been working for a couple of weeks on it. It's a lot more user-friendly. You can find the episodes there. We also have been implementing some merchandise. So on the website, there's some merchandise that you can find. Also, we have a TeePublic store now. So if you're looking for some merchandise that you want to buy for Christmas or just whatever, Mom and I got a couple of aprons and some mugs.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, we got an apron that has the podcast name on it. So we're hoping we have it by Christmas, because then that way we can wear it for Christmas when we're cooking. There's a mug on there that says Stirring Up Italian American History. And that's going to be Mom and I's new coffee mugs when we're podcasting and recording. So
yeah, I'm excited.
Well, today we are sticking to the home state of Colorado, and we are telling the story of Antonio Neroni. He was a man who actually went by many names, but he led quite the life. He's a little bit of a violent man, and that violence started all the way in Italy, and he brought that clear to the streets of Florence, Colorado. So we're going to spend some time in Italy, where usually we just are right in America. But so he was born in Italy in 1877. And his early years are largely a mystery, but what we do know about him is chilling. According to his own claims, his first murder came at just 12 years old when he stabbed a neighbor to death in his sleep.
12
years old, but he ended up spending 10 years in an Italian prison for this. But when he was released, his violent streak, it didn't stop, because then he joined the Italian army. And while serving, he slashed his captain's face with a knife in the mess hall, and that earned him another sentence in prison. And then after that prison sentence, he actually stabbed another man in Rome. Right after that, he fled to America because he didn't want to go back to prison.
Definitely something wrong there.
So by the early 1900s, he had made his way to the United States, and he settled in southern Colorado and began working in the coal industry around Trinidad and Walsenburg. So to kind of give you an idea of what Neroni's life was, you've got to kind of picture these Colorado mining company towns. Those little towns, they were basically owned by the mining companies. They ran everything.
Yeah, you get paid, go to the grocery store, and they give them back their money. Just a big circle.
Yeah, you didn't get paid in American currency. You got paid in the company's currency. They lived in company-owned housing. Like you said, they shopped at the stores. They were often paid in vouchers instead of real money, and it just kept them trapped. They were just dependent on them. They could not, like, how do you save money to go start a business or move or anything? So Neroni, he worked in these mines. One of the bosses at the mine, they withheld his pay for some reason, and Neroni threatened his wife and children. But the problem mysteriously resolved itself. I'm sure the boss was like, just take your money. You are not right in the head. Just go. And then soon after this, he actually left for Illinois. So I don't know if he maybe thought, I got to get out of Colorado for a while. I don't want to go to jail. I just threatened this wife and kids. But by 1907, he was back in Colorado. And when he returned to Colorado, he was living in Florence, Colorado, which is, it's still Southwest Colorado, I would say.
Right. Not as far as Trinidad and Walsenburg.
But at this point, Neroni, he reinvented himself, and he started going by the name Tony Bavari. Probably due to his threats against his previous boss. And I'm sure that was not the only incident.
I'm sure not.
So in Florence, he actually bought a small farm and partnered with Joseph and Dominic Minicello. And Joseph and Dominic, they were brothers who ran a produce business. Then Neroni bought this farm, and the brothers and him became business partners. And during this time, he also hired Antonetta Palmetto as a housekeeper. Now, rumors swirled about Neroni's relationship with Antonetta. She was actually married at the time, but regardless of that, Neroni seemed to be infatuated with her. And after his unwanted advances became public, she actually divorced her husband and left the farm. So it wasn't like she divorced her husband
for him.
I don't know if she was just embarrassed or I don't know what happened, but yeah, so she left her husband and the farm and she took a job as a waitress. But in December of 1907, she mysteriously disappeared.
Oh, wow.
Was gone. And a lot of people suspected that she went to Denver or Pueblo to find work, but no one was 100% sure. Not long after this, another man who worked for Neroni on the farm, Ercole Buffetti, vanished. And then in early January, both the Minicello brothers disappeared as well.
Good grief. That's scary.
And we're talking within a month and a half, maybe, 4 people all connected to Neroni were suddenly gone. So let's figure out what happened to these guys.
Yeah.
So Dominic, which was one of the Minicello brothers, he was last seen leaving his home on December 27th with $200 to catch a train to Pueblo. But he never made it there. And when his brother Joseph went searching for him, that's when he disappeared. So that's a little weird, right? He's like, where's my brother? He didn't make it to Pueblo. I'm going to go look for him. And then he's gone.
Right.
And it was actually Joseph Minicello's wife, Anna, who first sounded the alarm. She told the police that her husband and Neroni had a violent argument that was over Dominic. So I think what happened was Joseph went to Neroni and was like, where's my brother? And so Joseph left to search for Dominic, but he failed to return home. So, and I guess Anna told the police, I believe Tony Bavari, remember Neroni was going by Tony Bavari. She said, I believe Tony Bavari killed my husband. So it was obviously not a good relationship between all these guys.
Right.
At first, police weren't sure what to think. They actually speculated that perhaps the missing Italians had pooled their money together and returned to Italy. But those doubts, they did vanish on January 10th, 1908, when the Rocky Mountain News broke a shocking headline. And this headline read, Charred Human Bones in Cabin Near Bavari's. According to the article, investigators searching an outbuilding near Bavari's farm on River Road found ashes mixed with fragments of bone, a blood-stained axe, and burned clothing. That's a little damning.
And this is on his land?
This is on Neroni's land. And so it's close to the cabin that he lived in. So obviously the police started taking this serious and were like, okay, let's go search Neroni's property and see if we can figure something out. And locals told the paper that they had seen Bavari pushing a wheelbarrow toward the river late at night. And one neighbor even claimed that he saw him dump something heavy near the water's edge. So crowds began swarming the Bavari place. The paper described hundreds of onlookers gathering while Italian women wept and men muttered threats toward Neroni. Because of this, the sheriff, he took Neroni away under armed guard to prevent a lynching because they were,
I'm sure.
They were like, this is getting bad.
It's not looking good for him.
No. And the sheriff wired for the state's chemist and coroner to come help them investigate all this, believing that at least 2 of the victims had been burned. So there must have been a lot of bones that they found to believe 2 of them were burned. So while deputies were guarding the crime scene, another strange twist hit the papers. The Florence Daily Tribune ran a headline the same day that said, Seer claims to have seen the murder. And a seer is like a psychic fortune teller. I didn't know what that was. I had to look that up.
I think I know it from puzzles.
Like crossword puzzles and stuff.
And I probably had to look it up at one time.
Yeah, I was like, I have no idea what that is. So according to this paper, a local clairvoyant woman appeared at the sheriff's office claiming she had seen the murder in a vision. She described a cabin filled with thick smoke, a man striking another with an axe, and something black and burning in the stove. And she insisted she could point out the road leading straight to Bavari's place. And some townspeople laughed her off as, superstition, but others swore that she possessed the sight because what unsettled everyone was that her description matched almost exactly what investigators found the next day: the cabin, the fire, and the axe.
Oh, that is weird then.
I know. Yeah. That's a little...
For her to see all that.
And then it comes out the next day.
Right.
That's what they found. The paper, they painted a picture of a town gripped by hysteria. Neighbors were locking their doors at dusk. Women were scared to walk the streets alone. Groups of men were out searching the riverbanks by lantern light. And even hardened miners were said to cross themselves when passing Bavari's farm at night. So, wow. I mean, that is scary.
Well, that's a lot of people.
He's the common denominator. Mm-hmm. And it happened within a month. So the physical evidence, the bloodstained tools, the bones, and personal belongings left little doubt that something horrific had happened at the property. And within days, more discoveries followed. This is a little graphic. So the investigators, they found lungs, a torso, and the base of a ton.
Good grief.
And they found this along the Arkansas River. And there were tracks that led from Bavari's house to the riverbank where all this stuff was found. Now, whenever Neroni was confronted about the missing people, he refused to speak about it. But he did admit to the police that he killed people in Italy. So on January 16th, 1908, the Rocky Mountain News published a chilling update. The headline said, "Think murder in Florida is Bavari's work." So
wow.
According to the report, authorities in Florida had reached out to Colorado officials after recognizing some similarities between a recent double murder in Florida and the crimes committed by Neroni. In that case, in Florida, a man and a woman had been killed, dismembered, and burned, and their remains were also left in a remote cabin.
Wonder when he was in Florida.
I wonder that too. Like, did he come to America and stop in Florida first before coming to Colorado? But investigators, they speculated that Neroni might have committed the Florida murders while traveling under one of his many aliases. But the paper reported that officers in both states were comparing notes and that some officials believed Bavari's crimes might be part of a chain of murders stretching from coast to coast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and obviously this is all speculation, but, you know, these police officers are comparing notes.
Right.
I mean, this is 1908. It's crazy. The article ended with a chilling prediction. If the Florida theory proves true, Bavari's record of crime may place him beside the greatest fiends of history.
Wow.
So, in fact, a lot of newspapers started calling Antonio Neroni Colorado's other cannibal. It's because we have that infamous Alfred Packer in 1874.
Yeah, and that was up by Breckenridge, Colorado. They got trapped in snow on their expedition. They were trying to beat the weather, but it didn't happen.
And they got stuck in a snowstorm.
Right, and
Alfred ate him.
Yep.
Now, there was never any evidence that Antonio ate his victims. I think the papers were just playing that up.
Yeah, because it's in Colorado and...
Exactly. So on January 20th, another headline came out in the Florence Daily Tribune, and this headline read, "3 bodies of the slain Italians were found by officers today." So now this headline is a little confusing because it says 3 bodies. And earlier we talked about how they had found body parts. So I'm not sure if that was just the newspapers amping it up, because we'll get into it in a second, but it sounds like these officers find 3 of the 4 victims' whole bodies.
Oh, okay.
The police, they had been interrogating Neroni and they were getting fed up with him. He was not giving them any information. So one of the police officers was like, "Okay, we're getting this done today. You're going to tell us what happened." So they removed him from the jail and took him to his house. And once they got there, they placed a rope around his neck and said, quote, "Now, Neroni, you either tell us where those bodies are or we will string you up to that limb." And so they led him to the tree limb and placed the other end of the rope over the limb. So this freaked Neroni out and he started shaking and pleading with the police, and he quickly agreed to show the sheriff where the bodies were buried. While this was not the most conventional way, it worked. So he led the officers to the cellar, and there they found the bodies of Antonetta, Dominic, and Buffetti. And they were buried under 3 feet of loose sand. Like I said earlier, I don't know what they found
at the riverbank,
but there is 4 victims. Joseph is not in this.
Oh.
And like buried with these 3 bodies.
Yeah.
So according to the Tribune, the bodies were remarkably preserved by the cold earth. Remember, this is December and January.
Right.
And near one of the graves, investigators found a blood-stained shovel, a coil of rope, and a wooden bucket half filled with congealed blood. And so a ring on Antonetta's hand was how they first identified her. Her father actually identified the body and was able to confirm it was her because obviously he looked at the ring and he recognized the ring. But she was missing 2 toes on her right foot that she'd lost when she was a kid in some childhood accident. And when they first uncovered her body, they thought that she was killed by being struck over the head. But after further examination, they were able to determine that she was actually choked to death. When the last body was uncovered, Neroni started saying that he didn't do it. It's like, dude, so you did the other 2, but you didn't kill this person. He started yelling that Joseph, remember that's the other one who's not in this grave, he's still missing, I guess you could say. So he started claiming that Joseph was the one who killed them. And authorities, they continued searching for Joseph. They were convinced that his body was somewhere else on the property. So crowds gathered at the site and they were horrified by what was happening. The Tribune reported that even the most hardened deputies were shaken, one remarking that it was a scene no living man could forget.
Oh boy, this guy needs to be gone.
Yeah, he needs to be put away. He's too dangerous. How many like unsolved murders are out? Yeah, if he really did do all that. So once back at the police station, Neroni, he started confessing. He claimed that he did in fact murder Dominic and Buffetti, and he said he murdered those two on the evening of December 27th, 1907, while they were sleeping in their beds. So that really does go back to how he started when he was 12.
Right.
Because he stabbed that guy, his neighbor, and while he was sleeping.
But she was choked.
She was, well, that could have been more of a passion,
right?
Like more personal, because he was infatuated with her. So the two, Dominic and Buffetti, they had stayed overnight at Neroni's home because they needed to get up early for work the next day. And Neroni said he killed Buffetti by striking him over the head with a short axe. Strangely, though, he didn't kill Dominic the same way. Instead, he cut Dominic's throat with a razor blade. And then he wrapped both bodies in sheets and buried them beneath the floor of his cellar. Police believed that Antonetta was the first victim because her body was found beneath the two men's. The Florence Daily Tribune confirmed this in its January 22nd issue by reporting the headline, "Bava makes full confession of his bloody series of ugly crimes." So he told, according to that paper, he said he strangled Antonetta after she laughed in his face when he asked her to marry him. He claimed she had made sport of him before others and that he couldn't bear the humiliation. He said he killed Buffetti and the Minicello brothers, not out of rage, but for money and to silence them. He told officers that he could not let them live because they had seen too much. And Neroni also said that he was haunted by spirits that came at night. Oh, and that he drank blood to keep them away. Maybe that's where the cannibalism comes in.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I forgot about this headline. So reporters also described him as sometimes being calm and almost cheerful. And I guess he would smile and talk to himself in his jail cell. And the sheriff was quoted saying, "There is no doubt left. Bava is a fiend and a murderer, the like of which we've never seen." Even after his confession, Neroni changed his story several times. At one point claiming that Joseph had committed the murders. He even offered a reward if police could catch him. But the confusion and contradictions only deepened the case. According to the Rocky Mountain News, authorities had grown frustrated with his ever-changing stories and planned to put him through the third degree. It's like, well, haven't you already done that with the rope? Like, what's this one going to be like? What are you going to do to him now? The sheriff told reporters, "We are not through with him yet. Before long, he will tell the whole story as it really happened." Investigators believed Neroni might still be protecting someone else or hiding part of the truth, and they were determined to break him down. And I can't blame them. I mean, his story is like he confesses and then blames it on somebody else and back and forth. So they're probably like, we got to get the truth out of this guy.
You would think once he confessed, that's it.
Yeah, but like, we don't care what you say.
Yeah, you can say whatever. But
I think the only thing that might have been holding him up was they didn't know where Joseph was.
Oh, that's right.
That might have been the only thing. The sheriff also told the reporters that they saw Neroni pacing in his cell and he would whisper things like the devil made him do it. And so it was clear that Neroni's mind was unraveling.
Right.
And so that could have been another thing too, where they were like, who knows what the truth is with this guy. And according to the deputies, though, Bava, he seemed to take pleasure in misleading the investigators. He would come up with new accomplices, sending them on false leads and watching them scramble to check his claims. One officer said, "He lies with a straight face and laughs when we find him out." By January 22nd, 1908, the officers were over it and they charged him with murder and a trial was set for him. A coroner's inquest was held in Florence where witnesses testified about the discovery of the bodies and the evidence found in Neroni's cellar. The coroner's jury ruled unanimously that Antonetta, Dominic Minicello, and Buffetti had been murdered by Tony Bava, alias Antonio Neroni. So with the inquest complete and the coroner's jury making their rulings, the case moved towards trial, and the entire state of Colorado waited to see what fate awaited for Antonio Neroni. According to the Florence Tribune, Neroni's attorney, Sam Fabrizio, was preparing an insanity defense, calling his client no more responsible than a child. just when the town thought that they had kind of seen the last of his madness. You know, he's going through trial, all of that. The Florence Daily Tribune reported a shocking headline on January 29th. And this headline reads, Bava tries to escape. So according to the paper, late one night, a deputy discovered that Bava had nearly broken free from his cell at the local county jail because he had filed through the iron bars using a shard of metal from his bed frame and had been working on them for days. And when the guards searched his cell, they found bits of twisted wire, scraps of metal, and a makeshift rope woven from torn bed sheets. But when he was caught, Neroni was described as wild-eyed and desperate, shouting that he was being kept alive for the devil. He was immediately placed in solitary confinement. But Neroni's violence wasn't over yet. Just days after his failed escape, the Denver Post and the Colorado Statesman reported a violent outburst unlike anything the officers had ever seen. So apparently, Neroni was being transferred from the Fremont County Jail back to Florence, where the sheriff hoped he might reveal the location of Joseph's body. But because of the cold, deputies used leather cuffs instead of iron shackles and tied ropes to his ankles as an extra restraint. But Neroni had other plans. And when the officers paused to open a gate, Bava struck. He had cut through the leather cuffs, freed his arms, and lunged at the undersheriff with the weapon, attempting to slash him and flee toward the river. The sheriff wrestled the knife from him, but I guess Neroni fought like a wild animal. He was snarling, biting, and kicking until the men finally subdued him by striking him with the butts of their revolvers. Even after being restrained, though, his rage continued. He seized a willow branch with his teeth and snapped it in two and threw himself to the ground, smashing his head on the rocks in an apparent attempt to kill himself.
Good grief.
It's like, hey, officers, no more outings. He just needs to stay in his prison cell, get through his trial. I mean, I'm not blaming the officers or anything, but crazy. So the officers dragged him back to the car. He was beaten and bloodied, and he was returned to jail, but this time under heavy guard. The sheriff remarking that his rage knew no bounds.
Surprised he didn't take him over.
Me too.
Those crazed people like that get into that rage and...
Exactly. And their strength becomes crazy. So I think we're actually going to pause here and break this episode into two parts. We still have the trial to go through. We've got to talk about Joseph. There's still a lot to go through. So I think we'll pause and pick this back up next week and break it into two parts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
It'll be good. And there's so much to go. Sometimes it's hard when you do it all in one episode because it's a lot to remember. So like we talked about earlier, check out our new website. A lot of cool stuff there. Our merch, our episodes. And we hope you enjoyed listening to the crazy first part of Antonio Neroni's story. And we hope you come back to listen to more stories about Italian Americans. See you next time.
See you next time.